In this first Viral Rewind episode for 2021, we're going to look back at something from last year that everyone wishes they'd like to forget. Coronavirus. But not just coronavirus, it's the ransomware. Dun dun dun! Back in March of last year, of course we can see from our little tag here when this file was included that in March of last year a new form of ransomware went out that carried the name coronavirus with it because, hey, COVID-19 was going around and, hey, somebody thought, let's push out a ransomware and call it coronavirus to really scare people. So that's what they did, and then they released it here on the computer. So we've got the coronavirus ransomware here. I'll have to rename it to an executable so that we can execute it, but just a little something I want to show here. I'm going to re-enable Norton's auto protect feature on here because I have internet security on here from Norton, and say what you want about Norton, it works for me. But if I try to copy this coronavirus ransomware to the desktop, it's on an optical disc right now. See, I can't do it because Norton has intercepted it there. In fact, Norton classifies it as ransom crisis. So let's look at the details. So it has blocked it because it has identified it, and it calls it ransom crisis. Now, of course, this is many months later from that, so it's probably already been put into a database to be detected, but it's possible that, people didn't have internet security back then that supported recognizing it, and they got their systems infected. So I'm going to now disable that permanently for now. And then we copy that to the desktop. And while I'm here, I'm going to enable showing files and showing extensions because I need to see extensions. We'll get that. Let me get my optical disc out of there. And now I'm going to change this to have an exe extension on it. So it's now an executable, and it's kind of hard to see unless I highlight it, but it looks like a little trophy with a star on it that they're using for the icon for this coronavirus ransomware. So, something else I want to show you, because again, we're looking at this on a Windows Vista laptop, so most ransomware that you see nowadays are written for modern operating systems, so basically Vista and up all the way to Windows 10. And generally, when you run an application, depending on its privileges, you might need to run it as administrator. And when you have to run something as administrator, it usually puts up the Windows user account control. Now, I have it disabled on here because in Vista it was a very annoying process. But you would generally get some kind of UAC prompt if something tried to take administrative privileges of your computer to make changes to it. Now, if we open this, well, before I get that, we need to look at some context here. So here is a folder, and it has a whole bunch of sample pictures and videos, and also music files, all taken off from the default samples that are here on Vista. So those are pictures. Let's see. This is a Windows Media video of a bear. Bring it up here. So we can see that video is playing back just fine. Let's try one of these. Well, I'm not really going to play music, but you can see that the music file loaded because YouTube's going to get into that music recognition business. So we can see that all those files work. This also has Classic Shell on here. You can see the Classic Shell menu interface that I have for the start menu. This, of course, is all going to change once we get the coronavirus ransomware running on this system. So we're going to go over to it, and we're going to execute it. And you saw just a very, very tiny little dialog come up there and go away. Now, it's going to take about a minute or two. In fact, actually, it's starting right now because, let me pan down. This here is our hard drive indicator light. This is the power. As you can see from this hard disk indicator light, the hard disk is going full bore now. So that shows there's a lot of disk activity going on the machine, and what that's going to do is a couple of things. Number one, it's going to cause a performance drop, because now that the coronavirus ransomware is accessing the disk full time, loading programs or writing stuff to the disk is now going to take longer. The second thing is coronavirus is actively seeking out different files of different extensions, but it also goes one step further than some other ransomwares that we haven't looked at yet, but what most of them do. Because not only is it taking all your personal documents and files and encrypting them so that you can't open them without a decryption key, it goes one step further and pretty much breaks everything on the computer. It changes all the naming conventions on them so that their extensions don't normally work. Your shortcuts won't work. Menus will look different. So we're going to see that in a little while here. Now, because this has to take some time on the computer here, I'm going to stop the video, and then we're going to come back and look and see that the damage that the coronavirus ransomware has done. So hard drive activity is slowed down some, and we can already see some differences on our desktop icons, including a presentation of this window. So let's read the fine print. It says, all your files have been encrypted. All your files have been encrypted due to a security problem with your PC. If you want to restore them, write us to the email coronavirus@qq.com. Then we have our ID, which says, write this ID in the title of your message, and of course that's the ID for this machine that it has encrypted the files on. And then it says, pretty much in second time again, in case of no answer in 24 hours, write us to these emails, coronavirus@qq.com. So just the same email again. It says you have to pay for decryption in bitcoins. The price depends on how fast you write to us. After payment, we will send you the decryption tool that will decrypt all your files. And then they give this little guarantee that says, before paying, you can send us up to one file for free decryption. The total size of the files must be less than 1 megabyte. That's non-archived files, so no zips and then files should not contain, of course, your valuable information, because you'll know what they want to do with that. Then they said how to obtain the bitcoins. They give you some address to exchange your real life currency for the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. Then it has attention. Do not rename encrypted files. Do not try to decrypt your data using third-party software. It may cause permanent data loss. And decryption of your files with the help of third parties may cause increased price. They add their fee to ours. Or you can become a victim of a scam. I think if you got this, you already are. So that's the message we get. And we learn a couple of things from this. Number one, it's written in English, so it's obviously from something foreign. And it also has the email address is qq.com. Now that's part of Tencent QQ, which is out of China, so that gives you a good idea where this coronavirus ransomware initiated. Get rid of this, except for moving it. In fact, we got it twice. But let's get rid of the message here with Task Manager. So in task. And if you see in our folder here, we don't have icons or previews of any of the files anymore. So our bare Windows Media Video is now bear.wmv.id, which of course has our ID attached to it, and then they put their email coronavirus@qq.com.ncov. And that's the same for everything else on here. You see that all our desktop icons are also infected with the same problem. In fact, they gave us a little text document here, which just says, all your data has been locked. Us. You want to return? Write email coronavirus@qq.com. So they put that right there. In fact, it's on there twice. And as they say, these are all encrypted, so if I undo all of this and just change this back to bear.wmv, okay, we got our bear file, but you see we're not getting our preview. Try to launch Windows Media Player. It's giving us a kind of little message that says the file is attempting to play has an extension that does not match the file format. Do you want the player to try to play it? Of course we do. Say yes, and oops, Windows Media Player cannot play the file. That's not good. So obviously, that file is encrypted. We can't do anything with it. We go to our start menu. You notice our start menu looks all different too. It did not look like this before we ran the coronavirus ransomware. So it has played around with Classic Shell on here. And you look at all our program shortcuts in the menu. They all have these ID and email addresses attached to them. Let's try going into my computer. That's our desktop, which we already see is all messed up. We see we've got files in the C directory that have been altered. Boot sector backup has all been affected. Program files. Let's look at the Norton Security Suite. That doesn't look too bad. Norton looks unaffected there. Let's look at the 64-bit program settings. CC Cleaner. Have the CC Cleaner data and uninstall application or out of order. Aomi's backupper has all been altered. As you see, it does this to executables, so your programs don't work anymore either, unless you change those. So it's possible that it may have tried to encrypt every single file it could on the computer, not just your personal documents. So a little extra background on here. The thing with ransomware, and it's become more common now with cryptocurrency like Bitcoin around, because it's a very secure form of doing payment with, because it uses cryptography, hence cryptocurrency. And these virus writers or ransomware writers or hackers, whatever which one is using them, they write this ransomware so that it locks all your files with an encryption key, usually 128, maybe even 256 bits level of encryption, which is pretty hard to break without the decryption key. And then once it does it, they tell you to send them money, and the longer you wait, the more you send it to them, and in some situations you wait long enough, they won't honor the request at all, and it's made them a lot of money with ransomware nowadays. And again, they use the idea of the whole COVID-19 pandemic to come out with this ransomware called coronavirus, and then, with everyone scared of COVID-19 already, they're going to try to exploit people for money by encrypting all their files and, calling it ransomware coronavirus. But that's our video for the start of 2021 here, looking back at something from 2020, the coronavirus ransomware.